Welcome into the Paul Kuharsky podcast, live from Edley's, Nashville's best barbecue. Can you smell it? Can you smell it? So good. I'm Paul Kuharsky at paulkuharsky.com. Paul Kuharsky podcast brought to you by Edley's Barbecue and VIP Play. Zen Sports rebranding VIP Play, which I will tell you a lot about, is soon to launch. I am here on a Friday because the Titans had press conferences yesterday during our usual slot. And so we heard from several players, Tyler Lockett, Xavier Woods, Peter Kuharsky, and somebody I'm forgetting. Apologies, but it's good to hear from some players and Brian Callahan yesterday in our usual time slot. Kim Dunaway here, Robert, regulars. Appreciate you all. Look forward to more pouring into the room. Good to see you. We're going to talk about the idea of the Titans having a type of player, something Chad Brinker talked about proudly coming out of the first Brinker-Borgonzi draft. We're going to talk about Cam Ward and what he needs to do or not to do to win over the Titans locker room and the guys that he will be on the field with. The best picks in this Titans draft in lean body mass, something that Mike Borgonzi talked about as being a metric that the Titans were very interested in, and I wrote about before the draft. I've got some information after the draft. Tyler Lockett's durability, and all your questions, of course. So load them up here in the comment section. Look forward to talking with you. Feel free to retweet this and point people towards the live broadcast, and look forward to all of you who are watching also on YouTube, listening later on Apple, on Spotify, on iHeart. Like, rate, review, subscribe, thumbs up. All of this will help the cause, and we appreciate your help in doing so. The idea of the Titans having a type. So Chad Brinker, in the press conference the Monday after the draft, talked about the idea that the Titans will kind of come to be one of those teams where you could maybe easily predict the kind of guys they're going to draft. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, big, fast, tough football players who love winning more than anything else. I mean, that's a Titan. I really want, I think over time, as you see how this unfolds, you might be able to draft him for us ahead of time, because you're going to see like, oh, that looks like a Titan. There's definitely a DNA we're looking for in our players, and that's I think everybody wants that, but it's hard to find. You got to do a lot of work, and hopefully, those guys that we're bringing in here will prove us right.
I like what he's saying. I like what he's getting at. But there isn't a team in the NFL that doesn't want big, fast, tough football players who love winning, right? So are we going to be able to pick Titans because we can identify big, fast, tough football players who love winning, who fit the Titans mold? No. They're a long way off. And he understands they're at the beginning. Don't get me wrong. Chad Brinker knows they're at the beginning. He's emphasized multiple times leading up to this draft that they couldn't be any further away from where they want to be, drafting first, which makes them 32nd, and they want to be drafting 32nd. It's an admirable goal that he wants there to be a Titans type. But they need, obviously, to take a lot of baby steps to get where they want to be before they're the Steelers, and you look at Derek Harmon and say, oh, yeah, that guy's a Pittsburgh kind of player. Before you look at Malachi Starks and say, that guy is a quintessential Raven, right? And those two teams in particular, but other teams around the league too, get where they are by, consistently being good, right? They're in the playoffs regularly. When they miss, it's an aberration for Pittsburgh or Baltimore not to be in the playoffs. They're drafting low, usually not out of need. They can take a guy who fits their mold. It's generally a very good player that fits big, fast, tough football players who love winning, and beyond that, right? So I admire what Brinker wants to be, and I'm not saying that he's ahead of himself. I'm just kind of pulling that out to say, in the excitement of a draft where the Titans got all guys who fit, their characteristics, um, they're a long way from being in a place where you can pre-pick Titans players based on these qualities, especially because they have needs to fill and a lot of needs to fill. And that's really my only qualm with their draft is that they're building slowly, and I understand the patience and the discipline of building slowly, which is great if you're all bought in on slow progress in a slow build. But plenty of fans and ownership look around and see quick turns in Houston and in Washington and in other places, and don't necessarily take all the context into account that made those situations unique or saw the good fortune that went with them and say, hey, why can't we be like that? And when the Titans aren't like that, will Amy Adams Strunk? This is one of the things I wrote early this week. It's all in her hands now. If Borgonzi and Brinker are picking the right players, if Callahan can be a quarterback developer with Cam Ward, if Cam Ward is a promising quarterback, it doesn't have to be Jaden Daniels. I don't think he's going to be Jaden Daniels. Most people don't think he's going to be Jaden Daniels or C.J. Stroud in terms of the production and the fast path to very good. But if he can, give you top 12 production, if not immediately, in year two, but the wins don't come immediately. Will Amy Adams Strunk be patient and disciplined with that, the way that she has told Chad Brinker that she'll be patient, in the way that she has told Mike Borgonzi that she'll be patient, in the way it seems that she has told Brian Callahan that she will be patient? Because the worst thing that could happen for Cam Ward, unless Brian Callahan absolutely falls on his face this year, is change in the people who are coaching him at quarterback in the NFL after 1 year. So that's a big concern of mine going forward. Is there a Titans type? In time, maybe there could be a Titans type. Right now, the Titans type is better football players, bigger and faster. I think bigger and faster is more of an emphasis now than with Vrabel, who certainly wanted big and fast, but was really into smart and tough, right? Big, fast, over smart, tough. Not that they're looking for dumb, not that they want soft, but would they rank big, fast, over smart, tough? I think they would. Don't you? Let's see what you guys have to say here. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Ed, Spencer, Josh, Jason, Mr. Oldham. Let's see what's going on. Love the optimism and the energy at this time of the year. People seem higher on this draft class than the last couple of years, too. It's funny, though. I think fans generally were not – I mean, they knew Cam Ward was coming. They got themselves excited about Cam Ward. But after Femi Aladejo and Kevin Winston, I don't think on Friday night people were that excited. Then things come around on Saturday where they had 6 picks and they draft a bunch of skill players, 2 receivers and a tight end with their first 3 picks, right? You go DK, Helm, Iomanor, and everybody's excited, right? All of a sudden, skill position players, guys with the ball in their hands, and everything turns. And then you add Slater and Harris and Mullings, and all of a sudden, fan grades really go up. And I understand the enthusiasm for those people, but I think you have to hold yourself in check also. 4th round wide receiver hits are not a regular thing in the NFL. Certainly year 1 hits, not a regular thing. Sometimes, sure. And you can hope for one here. But those are 3 4th rounders, DK, Helm, and Iomanor. So, how much, how soon you're going to hit on all 3 of them, that would be really rare. Slater makes absolute sense as a developmental guy to succeed Zeitler, or to be your cushion there. Maybe if Cushenberry's, just not going to turn back into himself um, after the Achilles. Harris, you always want a cornerback to add to the mix, and there are questions about L'Jarius Sneed beyond his injuries now. Mullings, you can find running backs late, we know, and he looks like just the kind of guy they wanted for to add to that running back combination. Any idea about why Io Manor slipped? Well, he had two significant knee injuries, one at the end of high school, one early in college. So 2 full years of college play at Stanford. Was in a bad offense at Stanford, and I think that helped make him available for them. Ed Henry, thank you very much, Ed. Ed bought 2 tickets to the 440 event that we had, sponsored by Sinkers and a non-Edley's barbecue joint. And it was a great event on Saturday night. Ed's out of town. He bought 2 tickets. I offered up those 2 tickets to a member of PaulKuharsky.com who came. I didn't see them after the event, but I presume they enjoyed themselves. And we had a good time talking off the record at the event, which was a lot of fun. All the 440 connected podcast guys. So Ed asks, there seems to be a concerted effort to create a clear distinction between from office, getting players with traits, and then coaches to develop them. Far cry from collaboration theme of last year. That's an interesting point. That there seems to be a little bit of separation from collaboration to front office getting the talent, coaching staff developing the talent. And there is more of a kind of clear distinction there as to how you will cast the blame if things don't pan out in the long run. Hey, we saw these guys as guys who could be developed. Now, if they are not developed, we know where the blame lies. I think that's a good point, Ed. I had thought about that to a degree, more in a unified sense. Like, our strategy is to get guys who we see big upside in, and we're going to go collectively develop them. But now that you point that fact out, there's a lot of pressure here, obviously, and the big one on Callahan, on Holtz, on McCoy, on Hardigree to develop Cam Ward. But there's a lot of pressure on Ben Bloom, right, with Oladejo, to turn a guy who's played 10 games at edge into much more prolific pass rusher, who's a lot more than an edge setter and a good run stopper. And it will be easier to divide up the successes and failures of these picks from a chooser developer in a chooser developer sense, for sure. In my years covering the team, Spencer asks, which players have been the best free agent addition that has come in and an impactful leader immediately? Could Lockett fit that? I mean, I think Lockett's going to be an impactful locker room guy, and I think he'll be a productive player. Certainly a notch up from Boyd last year, better player than Boyd. Still, he's on the down end. The most influential guys still had more left. Kevin Mawai, in terms of the locker room impact, the biggest ever. Delaney Walker had a huge locker room impact and a huge production impact. Mawai had a huge production impact as well. I mean, he helped block for Chris Johnson's 2,000-yard season and was a terrific influence on the guys. And that Chris Hope, David Thornton, Kevin Mawai all came in as part of the same class. That was a fantastic free agent class, Titans' best free agent class ever. Delaney Walker, maybe their best free agent signing ever. Off the top of my head, I'm sure there are others that I'm forgetting. But it has not been nearly as good as you think. I mean, I remember going back and reviewing free agency in its entirety. And Just not enough hits. Jason Crown over. Appreciate the Titans talk, but the real question is, what's my go-to side dish at Edley's? Appreciate you asking. I love the bean salad, and the bean salad when they dump it on top of the avocado plate is just outstanding. Outstanding. Did they adequately, Mr. Oldham asks, did they adequately address the defensive needs, and what are they doing at kicker and punter? Well, I think there'll be another kicker in to challenge Joey Sly. I would imagine there'll be, I think I've seen 2 kicker names as tryout players, and I think they'll bring in a punter. Obviously, take some camp workload off Johnny Hecker, but Johnny Hecker is the punter here. Joey Sly is more of a question mark. They think they can develop, refine, rein in Sly. But certainly they need an alternative there, and they need to be ready to go a different direction. Folk has not been signed, so he'd be out there maybe as an alternative if they wanted to go that way. Adam says both those turnarounds, Washington and Houston, were due to the quarterbacks. If Ward is a legitimate winning quarterback, we could bounce back a lot further than people expect. I do think those rosters were more complete than ours. 8-9 or 9-8. I mean, those rosters were more complete. You look at what Houston has at pass rusher, or that Washington had Terry McLaurin. Yeah, that's superior to what the Titans have. So Chase wants me to rank this draft. I'm not big into rankings and gradings and everything. And then the biggest thing that happens with those, I mean, you can find a lot of hot take artists out there that'll give you that stuff. I'm not one of them. In terms of filling needs, I think they did pretty well. I don't think day 2 has enough immediate impact. And I've mentioned this already. Nick Suss, looks at Oladejo and says, if you get a 6 who can develop into an 8, so you get a year of a 6 and 3 years of an 8 out of his rookie contract, well, that's not better than getting a guy who comes in as an 8 and is an 8 for all 4 years. And, you wonder if there wasn't a path for them to do that. And I think Winston is probably going to be a very good player, but he is at the start a package player. I think Xavier Woods got a 2-year contract for a reason. They like him. I would imagine him as a starter. And Hooker, I know Hooker gets hurt a lot, but that's a situation where you're taking best player available. They found Winston to be a very, very good value at number 82. But how much is he helping you on opening day? Probably not a lot. Probably as a special teamer and a big nickel package player. Whereas if you had found your way to another edge, he might have been a starter or an impact pass rusher. Oldham asks, is it crazy that a team could be the worst in the league, too competitive in one draft season? Am I wrong? It's not crazy. It happens. But it doesn't seem like it's going to happen with this team because they are, like I'm talking about, they didn't go for direct, immediate impact in some circumstances. So, and Whoosh Wizard makes a good point here. I think the type is less of what the player is and more they would fit the Titans' play style. We just don't know what that style of play is yet, but that's not what Brinker said in the comment that I am referring to there. Let's get into this the idea of Cam winning the locker room's confidence. I don't think Cam, this seems like a popular theme now. Like, how does a young quarterback come in dealing with older guys and kind of win them over? I don't think anybody on the team really needs to be won over. He's not replacing a quarterback that had any kind of great success. with Will Levis being the outgoing incumbent, outgoing as in going to the bench. Whether he's going off the team or not, we don't know. He certainly didn't do it. He's it. Cam Ward is it. So I don't think he has to do much outside of not be an ass and comport himself in a good way. And Peter Skoronski basically said that the same thing. Here's Peter.
Nothing but his job, I think it's simple. Just do what he's got to do. We've got faith in him. Obviously, he was picked number one for a reason. So we've got faith in him, and if he just works hard, which I trust he will, and I've just met him briefly, but there's nothing magical. Just doing your job and being accountable and being consistent, and that's all it'll take. And we've got trust in him, and that'll just only continue to build as we get to do stuff and get into camp.
And that's, before Peter has any kind of relationship with Cam Ward, before he's dealt with him in a huddle, before he's been with him in an offensive meeting, any of that. It's the way it works, right? Titans had a hole at quarterback. They filled the hole at quarterback. Now everybody believes in the guy that's at quarterback because that's how it works, right? And now Cam Ward gets to play out his time at quarterback. If he's good from the start, then there's not a question about it. If he's not good from the start, there's shakiness, then you play through it collectively as a team while you wait for him to figure things out and hopefully get good over time. And we know how that calendar of time works. You get, midway through your second year as the number one pick in the draft before people should start questioning, whether you're the guy or not. I'm at Edley's Barbecue. I'm at 501 Sarah Avalon Berry Lane in Franklin. More easily put, it's off 65 at the Paytonsville Road exit south of Nashville. If that's not a practical location for you, you can go to the factory in Franklin. You can go to 5 Points in East Nashville. You can go to Sylvan Park. You can go to Donaldson. You could go to Gallatin. You can go to 12 South. You can go to Nolensville. They are in the city. They have the city surrounded. It is the best barbecue you are going to find. I was long hooked on the fried ribs, which they don't have all the time, which are phenomenal. I am now a big proponent of the avocado plate. My wife did not know I was going to be here today. And she actually is over there. She might have left, but she's having lunch with a friend. She's hooked. I'm hooked. My son is hooked. We haven't brought him here in a while. I'm due. Maybe we'll take a trip here soon. It's some of the best food you can find in town. It's affordable. The service is fantastic. You come in, you get in line. There's hardly ever a time that I'm here that I wait for more than one family or person in front of me ordering. Food comes quickly. It's hot. It's delicious. Service is terrific. The drinks are great. These bartenders behind my computer here treat me wonderfully, and they'll treat you wonderfully. Will Newman, who founded this whole deal, and that's like his grandfather, his great-great-grandfather over my shoulder, is a terrific guy, terrific person in the Nashville community, and they make great food. I can smell it. I wish you could smell it through your speakers, through your computer, through your TV, however you're consuming this. You should come and consume Edley's Barbecue. You also need to join paulkuharsky.com. Look, it's the most unique and distinct coverage of the Titans around. Not just me, Mike Herndon, James Foster, Blake Battingfield, a very unique mix of voices with a very unique mix of connections and insight into this team. Please support independent journalism on your favorite team. $7.50 a month, really the price of probably cocktails here or anywhere, or a fancy cup of coffee. Retweet, thumbs up, subscribe on YouTube, like, rate, review on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and become a member. Lots of great perks. Lean body mass is something I wrote about before the draft. Mike Borgonzi likes this metric as a harbinger of durability. It's basically your weight without your fat. And so it ties into how lean you are, obviously. I've learned a little bit since the draft of how members of the Titans draft class did in this metric. Um, Kevin Winston, who was listed at 213 pounds, had a lean body mass of 182. Second best, second highest among safeties in the class, behind Nick Imanwari, who was 188. Imanwari went number 35 to Seattle. That's the trade the Titans made out of 35. So Imanwari went 35 to Seattle. The Titans traded out of that pick, and they took Winston 82nd in the third round pick they got back from Seattle. Jackson Slater, the offensive lineman we talked about, he's listed at 311 pounds. He was 237 in lean body mass, sixth highest amongst guards, and he would have been number one at center. So those are guys that qualified in the Titans draft class very well at this lean body mass the Titans lost. Abdul Carter, I didn't get his number, but he did not do well at lean body mass. I don't know if that would have been enough to scare the Titans off if they were thinking about going that direction, but that's something interesting. But also in talking to some people, I don't know just how big a factor this would be for the Titans. It's something relatively more modern. It's something that probably, if you were using it as a disqualifying factor, would have disqualified Jarrell Casey, which would have been a bad thing for how good a player he was for the Titans. It would have disqualified Lendale White. A lot of people have mixed feelings on Lendale White. Some people wouldn't have a problem with Lendale White disappearing. And it might have disqualified Samari Rolle, who just was too small. He weighed 167 at the Titans' first minicamp where he reported. So just a tidbit there about one of the new metrics that the Titans were including in their consideration of players through this process. Let's get back to your questions here and see what's on your mind. I appreciate so many of you being in here. Awaken to the Eternal. Who do I consider the Titans' extra pick, and were they worth dropping back for? He says he's guessing DK, and I don't know if he's worth it. I mean, he's not the extra pick. The extra pick is Winston. I mean, they made a trade. They traded 35, and they traded 35 for 52 and 82. And so what you're getting there is what they wanted to get to was a third round pick. And so the third round pick is the pick that they didn't have that they got. So Kevin Winston, the safety out of Penn State, is the extra pick. And so I think they said he would have been a high second rounder, but for his ACL injury that limited him to 3 games in his final year. And people are high on Winston. They think he's a very good player. And he may well be a very good player. I'm not down on Winston. I'm just down on the idea that he's not going to be on their depth chart right now, a guy that stands to play and contribute a lot. Dwayne, known as number one, raving about James and Blake, adding many great articles about the draft pre and post. I appreciate that. And Oldham, I think his first name's Kevin. Oldham, are you Kevin? Edley's burnt ends and grits is where it's at. Robert wants an Edley's in Clarksville. Some talk about Levis and his girlfriend and everything. I don't care. Levis gets cut after camp. Matthew Maddox says, I love predictions as statements of fact, Matthew. It's one of my favorite things. I would think they would be able to get something for him if he loses the competition. I am not nearly as impressed with Brandon Allen as many of you are. I think Will Levis is very clearly the second most talented quarterback on the Titans. And I would value him as such. But, if they decide that Brandon Allen is the second quarterback on this team, unless Will Levis has an absolutely miserable training camp, I would think they would be able to get something for him. What that something is, I don't know. It could merely be a pick swap, but keep in mind that even Malik Willis got them a fourth rounder, and Malik Willis is far worse than Will Levis. I don't think Will Levis is worth a lot, but that all this nonsense you guys are talking about with Simmons and Levis and whatnot is not going to get any attention here. Hooker's on the final year of his deal. Winston will be a starter in year 2. I presume that to be the case as well, though Amani Hooker is younger than we think. Now, he does not meet the durability standard that the Titans are holding out for with players right now. He misses games. He gets banged up. But Amani Hooker is a good player. And as such, I consider him a valuable commodity. Amani Hooker right now is about to turn 27. So I don't know if I would be completely out on Amani Hooker as a guy that they could potentially re-sign. And there's another thing I would say about this whole deal is like the Titans are nowhere near, and this is an unfortunate thing about the Titans, but the Titans are at a bottom out roster point right now. They are nowhere near a point where they could be drafting a year ahead considering replacement of one of their better players in terms of roster construction, right? Mike McCoy is kind of a sounding board guy. He's got play calling experience, which nobody else on the offensive staff does. That's an added feature, added veteran offensive voice, which I think is something that Callahan lacked outside of it coming from kind of the offensive line perspective of Bill Callahan. And this is an interesting question from Chase Weaver. Does this draft give me the sense that the front office is committed to Cali? I don't think it would be stupid for them not to be committed to Cali, because for them to draft a class and to have a free agent class and to make all these moves, there's certainly, Callahan isn't their primary consideration. They're drafting good football players who they think would be good football players for anybody. But certainly they're not giving Callahan guys that Callahan doesn't want. And to go into it thinking, well, Callahan may or may not be here is not the way to operate a football team. So. Yeah, I think this is a minor distinction. Richard Snyder asking, any idea how the front office conversation went from locker room leadership to culture change? Is this the same thing stated in a different way? Pretty much, yes. Culture change. I don't know how much 6th, 4th, 5th, and 6th round picks are going to change the culture. I mean, you don't have anybody that's counterculture in that group, so that's fine. Guys are going to change your culture are the big producers who everybody looks to and follows. I don't think, and I argued with Mike Vrabel about this, who thought that, Deion Lewis was a big leader in the Titans locker room, but Deion Lewis didn't do shit. So who's looking to Deion Lewis to lead when he doesn't do anything? I mean, he saw a lot of leadership qualities in a lot of guys who didn't do anything. I think you got to do something. And this is where I had my quote unquote falling out with Logan Ryan, because I wrote about Logan Ryan said he thought you did have to produce in order to earn leadership stripes, and Mike Vrabel didn't think so, and they both thought I was pitting them against each other when I was merely saying here's two different views of leadership from two guys who'd won Super Bowl, which I think was a completely fair thing to compare. I need you to talk to the owner about bringing Edley's to Clarksville. I have put that in this podcast in order to clip this piece of the podcast and get it to Will Newman himself. And I will clip this. I will text it to him. He will text me back, and I will deliver it to you, what he says about the potential of Edley's in Clarksville. That is me, direct to consumer. We're not talking enough about Restrepo reuniting with Cam. Is this an advantage for the Titans and/or Cam? It certainly is an advantage. I mean, he's very familiar with him, and the guy was immensely productive at Miami. And he knew how to get open. Now, there's going to be a whole different level of coverage in the NFL. And Restrepo, I understand that he was hurt and when he ran his 40. I don't understand why you would run a 40 with a bad hamstring, or if the hamstring went bad during the 40, I don't understand why you would not pull up. Your 4.8 is a 4.8. 4.8 is dinosaur speed, I've said before, and then people told me dinosaurs are fast. That is very slow, 40. And look, the guy could come here and be great, and I know he's going to be a fan favorite and all of that. But they loaded up on wide receivers. I mean, he's not making the team ahead of Lockett or DK. And Lockett and DK are both slot guys. So it's going to be very hard for Restrepo to get on the field in meaningful games as a slot receiver, I think, based on the presence of Lockett and DK. I mean, tell me how that's going to work. I think that's going to be different. I don't know why you would make this presumption. Trevor says Tyler Lockett going to come to the Titans and end up looking like Tyler Boyd. I know the Titans. I mean, their history is very bad at wide receiver, but Tyler Lockett is a very different guy than Tyler Boyd. EA says 4.8 is Jarvis Landry, who was very productive in Miami. Okay, there's Jarvis Landry. Now give me another one. Jarvis Landry is like a huge exception to the rule. Now, give me two more. Show me like that Jarvis Landry isn't like the 1 in 1,000 exception. Like, I'm trying to think of the other. Dave McGinnis helped bring a guy to Arizona. Who am I thinking of? He's a taller guy who was very slow wide receiver, who was very productive and had a very good career. Somebody helped me with the name, and I went to look him up. And he was 4.7. So he was regarded as an immensely slow wide receiver, had a very good career. And I think, I believe I went to look for his time to compare him to Restrepo. And he ran 4.7 something. Somebody remind me his name and look up his 40 time for me. No, it wasn't David Boston, who was also Anquan Bolden. What was Anquan Bolden's 40 time? Thank you for fishing that name out for me. All right, we've got the name now. You don't have to do it anymore. But Anquan Bolden was a very effective, slower receiver. I don't think he was a slot guy. I think he was an outside guy. He knew how to get open. He knew how to use his body for separation, right? He was a physical guy. He's a good receiver. We're killed for the Titans that have had Anquan Bolden amongst their slow group of receivers. And he wasn't a 4.8 guy. I'm almost positive. 4.71. That's a big notch, different than 4.8. So, I mean, he, to me, is the next example over Jarvis Landry. 4.71. So, I mean, you could say Jarvis Landry all you want for Restrepo, and you could say Restrepo ran that because he had a bad hamstring. So he's not 4.8, he's 4.7. Well, who's the fast 4.7 guy? Well, Jerry Rice was a 4.7 guy, I think. Yeah. Okay. Well, Jerry Rice, their MB has Jerry Rice up there. Jerry Rice ran a 4.71. So here's a Titans fan's reaction. The Titans get undrafted Xavier Restrepo, and he's slow. We're going to round him up to a 4.71. And so the Titans fans are going to compare him to Jerry Rice. Because the Titans, when the Titans draft or find an undrafted receiver who's got some promising quality, he's going to be Jerry Rice. Because the Titans historically find the guy who's Jerry Rice, right, among undrafted receivers. Come on. Yes, Jerry Rice ran a 4.7. And Jerry Rice is like the all-time exception to being, the best receiver in history running a 4.7. Awaken. We don't do that. I'm hearing. I'm hearing makes it sound like you're in the scouting community. I'm hearing what you're saying is I read aloud and my ears heard me reading someone saying. So say I'm reading and tell me where you're reading it. Yeah, and look, Restrepo, I think he probably, if you had to predict right now, winds up on the practice squad. You know, and I've said for a long time, look, Mason Kinsey's a great story. I wrote last year about him earning his pension, which is a remarkable story. Um, and God bless him. But it's time for them to have somebody in the Mason Kinsey role on the practice squad who's got more upside than Mason Kinsey. Now, Mason Kinsey's become a blanket for the Titans because he can play all the wide receiver positions and safety on the practice squad for the scout team and give them guaranteed good looks at that stuff. They've gotten too comfortable with that. They need a guy that maybe isn't quite as good at doing those things, but gives you an upside where maybe he can be a player for you on your 53-man roster. And so I'd say my hope would be that Restrepo can replace Kinsey on the practice squad, learn to do the things that Kinsey has done on the practice squad, and offer you an upside where maybe he could get on the field as a slot for you one day if he and Cam Ward have this amazing connection. And if DK doesn't pan out or gets hurt, and there'd be room for him post Lockett if he takes it away. Yeah. Steffi Knuckles points something out about Awaken. I don't know what the hell that is. I don't think my people are running to the website, but I'll limit that. Jude, we don't know if he's an exception and not the rule yet. He did things at Miami. He's not playing the toughest competition in college. Let's see what he does in college. Your boy that you're talking about, he crowns people or knocks them down very early in the process. Very early in the process. All right, let me tell you about some other very important stuff. Zen Sports is no more. VIP Play launches soon. You see their logo right here if you're watching the broadcast. VIP Play launches soon. It is going to be the premier betting experience where everybody plays like a VIP. There's a sweepstakes every month for a $10,000 bonus bet. You get one entry for every dollar you bet, 10 times the dollar for every dollar you bet in a parlay. It's a pretty sweet deal. VIP Play also has more offerings than anyone. You've heard sites offer live now. VIP will be live always with access to over 200 leagues, more than anybody else offers. You got 24/7 VIP support and really, really dynamic offerings in the bets that you can create. Specials for members of paulkuharsky.com are coming. Something to be excited about. Get ready. It's going to be a lot of fun. I will offer some creative bets here for you guys to jump on and join with. Stay tuned. Much more to play, much more to come on VIP Play. Get used to hearing that. VIP Play coming soon to an app near you. Really looking forward to telling you more about them and for all of us getting on board. VIP Play. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and over in Tennessee to bet. Lockett's durability is something. So I remember this play last year or the year before, DeAndre Hopkins' first year with the Titans, where he caught a ball outside and he ran inside. He had some yards to gain, I thought he could have taken on two guys in front of him and maybe earned more, and he slid. And I tweeted something about him giving up on this play. He didn't react well to it. We wound up. I had a good relationship with DeAndre Hopkins, and we wound up talking about it, and him really shrugging me off and saying I didn't know what I was talking about. That you know, that knowing when plays were dead like that and not taking the hits there is part of the key to being who he was, and lots of wide receivers doing that. My experience, obviously, with Titans having such bad receivers over such a long time, it didn't give me much opportunity to see that. Tyler Lockett kind of talked about this in his conversation with the press Thursday. Here he is on durability and making choices, and Tyler Lockett's missed like close to 0 games in a very long
There
time.
is a time and place for everything. Obviously, I think there's some plays where I can get a little bit, more yards than I have, and I can definitely work on that. And there's times where you got to live to play another down, because in this game, it's about durability. It's about availability. The fastest that you're out or the fastest that you can't practice, that's another man's opportunity. And when you really think about it, a lot of opportunities that come in the league come from somebody else's downfall. And so you want to be able to be as consistent as can be. You want to be able to show what you can do on the field, because it does get to a point of what have you done for me lately. And for me, I want to be able to play as many games as I could play. I want to be able to be injury-free, going out there and doing that type of stuff. But at the same time, there's knowledge of knowing when to do it and how to do it and making sure you secure the first down and making sure, because there's sometimes where, you could catch a slant and take it to the house, but on third down, well, if you catch a slant and try to take it out, they punch the ball out, it's incomplete, right? So there's times where you got to be able to know when to sacrifice and take that first down and when to be able to get more yards, knowing that these guys now are getting stronger, faster, they're punching the ball out a lot more. So we always got to remember, to protect the ball is to be able to protect our livelihood.
He's going to pick and choose his spots, right? He's going to pick and choose his spots on, when to not necessarily be risky, but when to attack and when to, get down, if you will. And that makes a lot of sense. And if the Titans have a point guard quarterback and Cam Ward, who's going to distribute the ball to a variety of weapons and move the chains on a regular basis, they're going to have chances to break big plays, but they're also going to have chances to convert some first downs and get down. And that'll be just fine if things are going effectively. Tyler Lockett is going to be a fan favorite in quick order. He's definitely going to be a media favorite. I was not there Thursday, unfortunately, but he came into the room and introduced himself to every person that was at that press conference, which is just unheard of. So he's definitely going to be a media darling, and I look forward to meeting him and working with him. I look forward to meeting all these guys and working with all of them. It sounds like Tyler Lockett is also looking forward to it, and you can't say that about a ton of people in the media. T-Town Brown says Restrepo will be tested if he lines up against McCreary and Jarvis Brownlee. Can't wait to see those reps in camp if he gets them. And one of the hopes here with this new regime is that you, through us, still get the same look at those reps. One of our fears is that we're going to be, for the first time ever, restricted to like a corner of the practice field, and that we fear that the video you get is going to be from a mile away. So I hope you'll join us in crossing your fingers that we're not going to be reduced to that. Don't be mad, Deegan. Everything's fine. Josh F. said, I loved D-Hop, but he always gave cryptic and short answers. It's refreshing to hear Lockett go in-depth and elaborate. D-Hop was good. I mean, you just have to get to know a person. Sometimes he was cryptic and gave short answers. He was really good with the cameras and microphones off, and that's just fun. Is this a prove-it year for Callahan, someone asks. I'm hesitant to dismiss that he may not be the weakest link in this upcoming season. It's a prove-it year for a lot of people. I mean, I think as long as this team shows upward progress, and Cam Ward is the story of the team now. If Cam Ward shows progress and looks to be who they think he is, then I think Brian Callahan should be the coach heading into 2026. I think this constant shakeup. If they were to fire Brian Callahan, they would have fired a top person in their hierarchy 4 years in a row. Now, once in a while, it's good to just admit a mistake. That's what they did with Rand Carthon. But if they hired two mistakes in such a short span, that Rand Carthon was a 2-year hire, and that Brian Callahan was a 2-year hire, it's just a disaster. And I think Brian Callahan could be a fine coach. Just have to give him players and time. So let's see what he does with players and time. They got more players and they've got more time. I liked everything I heard about Lockett from that press conference. Jude says, I feel like a good coach would treat every year as a prove-it year. Everybody in the league treats, unless you're a superstar, everything, and a lot of superstars approach it this way, that everything is prove it all the time. I mean, you're constantly doing things that show that you belong and deserve your contract, right? Nobody's ever. I mean, Andy Reid is perfectly comfortable, right? McVay is perfectly comfortable, stuff like that. But otherwise, the mix of the bulk of the league is always in a situation where they can't relax in any way, shape, or form. Royal says, well, Montiel and Vrabel are doing well. I mean, are the Cardinals doing that great? I like Monty Ossenfort. I think they're heading a good direction, but I'm not sold on the quarterback situation out there. And in that division, I don't think the Cardinals are in particularly good shape. And Vrabel hasn't coached a game there yet. I mean, he is a absolute media darling. And I love Mike Vrabel, and I think Mike Vrabel's a good coach. But I don't look at that draft and think it's an A+ all the way. I mean, they drafted a guy that's a lot like Peter Skoronski with the short arms. Now, Peter Skoronski, they refused to try at tackle. And Will Campbell's automatically attacked. Looks like a similar situation to me. Richard says, what's my take on the front office pressure? Brinker, to me, seemed to insulate himself even further from responsibility while having the responsibility. That's what Brinker is in this job. Now, to hear him tell it, Amy Adams Strunk came to him and asked him to take this job. So he landed magically in this job that is very insulated in terms of not being – he's got final say, right? So if Borgonzi's picks don't work out, he can point at Borgonzi and say to Amy, these were his picks. They didn't work out. We're going to say he had final say over them anyway, but he can say to her, I didn't execute final say, and these were Mike's. He's got a pretty safe job in terms of the accountability issue. But I think Borgonzi and Brinker both have time here. I mean, the next guy in line for trouble is obviously Callahan. John says, how can Rand Carthon be a mistake, but Brinker, the guy he hired, is good? I don't understand your logic there. Like, it's possible that a guy who's a mistake could hire someone good. Like, Rand Carthon was absolutely a mistake, but that doesn't mean every single thing he did was wrong, right? He drafted J.C. Latham. J.C. Latham, I think, is going to turn out to be a good right tackle in the league and have a good career. But that doesn't mean that Rand Carthon wasn't overall a disaster. He brought in Chad Brinker, and Chad Brinker turned out to be better than him. So that's something that Rand Carthon could have done that was good. Rand Carthon had 2 years of a canvas to paint on. Well, he could have made a couple good strokes on that painting but the painting overall could be shit. I mean, that's not outrageous. Trey says, I don't know why. Trey's a royal win for some reason. He says Will Campbell's going to be a Hall of Fame. Brinker is the most media-facing non-GM in the league, says Spencer. Well, let's look at the Los Angeles Rams. Who's media-facing there? It's Les Snead. Pretty media-facing. Is he the GM? What's their leadership situation? I need to look more closely at the Rams. The example of other teams who have a president of football ops didn't have that person doing pressers post-drafts. What are my thoughts? My thoughts are there aren't many teams that have a president of football ops. I don't know if there's a team in the league that has a football ops person who outranks the GM in title. I think none. I don't disagree that Monty Ossenfort is doing a good job in assembling picks. But I do disagree that Monty Ossenfort's I don't know if you're saying this. I mean, I don't look at the Cardinals and think, ooh, that's an up-and-coming team that I'm thinking is going to be in the NFC Championship game this year or in second place in their division. There you go. Mark Murphy's a good example. But Mark Murphy is also with the only team in the league that doesn't have an owner. So he kind of, he's president of the Packers. He's kind of in a Brinker plus Nihil role that also kind of serves as owner. And Gutenkust is the GM. My question about the Titans front office at this point with McKenzie and Ziegler and this guy they've hired from Cleveland isn't a little top heavy. That's fine if you want all these guys at the top. But how about more scouts? Like, what are we doing at the scouting level? Are they sufficient with their eyes on the ground? And wouldn't it be revolutionary to maybe do something at that level? All right, we'll take a couple more questions. One other thing I want to talk about, and I wrote it this week. You should go read it at paulkuharsky.com, where if you haven't gotten the message, you need to be a member, support local journalism, and get the best, most unique analysis, plus, news that's ahead of the curve, like this week's moves in the Titans front office, where you learned that the Titans hired the Browns director of player personnel, Dan Sagany. Is this idea that the Titans want players who love ball. And I think this is something where maybe their PR and firing their PR guy doesn't inform Brinker and Borgonzi that, hey, we went through a love ball phase before and it really panned out poorly, and you should be aware of it or refer to it or be conscious of it. That our last love ball era produced Vic Beasley, produced Monty Rice, produced Isaiah Wilson, produced Treylon Burks, produced a lot of guys who didn't really seem to love ball. And so love ball does not solve all by any means for a team. It's a nice intent. Nicholas Petit-Frere, though, maybe kind of loved ball when he came in the door, and he sure didn't seem to have any interest in ball by the time you cut him. And so selling that as a huge thing for guys. And I thought Sam Somerville he's one of the Titans national scouts who spoke over draft weekend. I thought he was really good on this. That you can be fooled on it, that you have to some guys really want what football can bring you, but they don't want football. I think these are all important deals. And one of the most interesting things, and maybe we could sort of wrap here, is that one of the problems, this was C.O. Bricado, the Titans' old scout who invented the 3-cone drill, and he told me early, and I've always kept this bromide close to me, is that money reveals more of what a guy is, right? Makes you more of what you are. So if you're a peaceful, charitable guy in college, when you get the money, you're going to be more of a peaceful and more of a charitable guy. And if you're an asshole in college and you get more money, you're probably going to be a bigger asshole. And Somerville referred to this. What you have now is guys get money in college with NIL. Some more than others, obviously. Cam Ward didn't make a fortune, but he made a couple million. But all these guys get some money, and so you get a little bit of a preview of what they're going to be like. It's not as big a mystery what's going to be magnified by money when they get to the league, because it's already been magnified a little bit by the money they got in college. You should be able to predict that from having seen it a little bit. How many rookies do I see starting next season, as Rob says? And I'm going to refer you all again to the site where I've got a consistently updating depth chart, including everybody. Updated Tennessee Titans depth chart. And right now, I've got Io Manor starting at wide receiver, Cam Ward starting at quarterback, and then Femi Oladejo starting at outside linebacker, and that's it. So 3. I think, and I've got Oladejo starting because I think he's more of a rundown guy. I've got him ahead of Arden Key, but I think Arden Key would be in on the pass rush downs, right? And Oladejo maybe off the field for those pass rush downs. But who else is really a candidate there? I mean, I think the receivers would be Ridley and Lockett for sure in the slot. So it's the X receiver that's open, and that would be Io Manor. Ward's the quarterback for sure, but the offensive line is loaded with vets. I think Gunnar Helm would be the second tight end, but if you're playing 2 tights, I think Gunnar Helm would start. And then you go to the defensive side of the ball. I think you've got Joseph Day, Sweat, Simmons on the defensive line. Inside linebacker is going to be Barton and either Gray or Williams. Outside linebackers, I think Oladejo starting with Draymond Jones, maybe 2 run guys for first down. Corners are going to be Jarvis Brownlee and L'Jarius Sneed, unless Sneed's in trouble. And then I think Daryl Baker's probably the other starter. Hooker and Woods at safety with McCreary at nickel, unless Kevin Winston knocks off Woods. So I don't think it's a rookie-heavy starting lineup. And again, that's where I'll say, you would have liked some more impact guys that maybe would have forced some of these people out of the lineup. Could be 3 or 4 tight ends. I mean, I think if you're certainly not 5 like last year, which was silly. Yeah, Chig, Helm, Wiley. I mean, Helm should steal Wiley's starting spot, but Wiley should be the 3rd best tight end. Odakoya and David Martin Robinson. They kept them developmentally on the 53 last year. I don't see why they can't be on the practice squad. I don't think there's huge interest in the league for those guys with another class of tight ends having come into the league. Last question. William Gordon says, ESPN has a way too early mock draft for 2026. It has the Titans having the number 1 pick again next year. Obviously, it's just theory crafting, but if Manning comes out, what do the Titans do? I don't think Manning's coming out, and I don't think the Titans will have the number 1 pick. If that scenario panned out, I think unless Cam Ward is absolutely awful as a rookie, you're trading that pick for a massive haul. And then, knowing the Titans, Cam Ward would be average, and Arch Manning would go on to great, great things, and the Titans will have blown it again. But I don't think those scenarios are happening. Hey, you guys have been great. It's been a great conversation like always. Regular slot Thursday at 12:30 Mondays at 1 o'clock, I'm on a football show with Braden Gall on the 440 network. Something good post-draft thoughts coming soon from Mike Herndon. That's for members only, and you'll definitely want to read that. I appreciate all of you that come and visit with me during these. Seems like a good time. Eat at Edley's. Be ready for VIP play to come online sometime soon. Become a member at paulkuharsky.com. Please, $7.50 a month. It's really nothing. My mother even pays for it to support me. She's a huge Titans person. Yankees first for her. Titans second. Appreciate your support. Hope you all have a great weekend. Pump up Ravenwood baseball. Huge game coming up in districts for them. I appreciate you. Don't block the box, and be sure to lock your locks.